Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Monday edition of Moohead Radio. I'm your host, the big and furry Blaine. Join me in the studio today, Brian and Tony and Stephanie A. Smith and Derek, EF Sports, all up to give you their honest opinions about what's going on in the wide world of sports. I wanted to start out the program, though, with we talk about things and the frustration with officiating very often in sports. I think that the NBA is by far the worst. I think the NBA has always been the most fixed league in my mind because, in football, there is the plausibility that, first of all, the passion of the fans, the speed of the game, and what constitutes a personal foul and a clean hit. And, there's where the questionable calls come are on bang plays very often, and they do slow them down on replay, but you can't challenge every play. So, football, it's not that I give them a pass. It's just that I think it's a harder game to call. I think basketball is a very easy game to call. And we're going to show you something here that is a primary example. As I'm going to bring my screen sharing up here. I'm getting better at this, by golly. And we're going to open up the audio to this. All right. What you're going to be watching here is the end of the Brooklyn Nets game against the Washington Wizards. The Wizards are terrible, and the Nets are, loaded with talent.
I like those uniforms.
Yeah, those are throwback uniforms.
Although it's interesting, them being a New York team, they've got Kyrie Irving and James Harden, so I have a nickname for them that's chock full of nuts. But be that as it may, this is the end of the game yesterday, and
uniforms should be straight jackets.
2 minutes and 11 seconds. But what I really want to focus on is the tail end of the game, not just how we got to this point. At this point, you'll see where we jump in. It doesn't seem possible that the Nets could lose this game. Here we go.
Anybody? Also, superstar scores. The thin man, Kevin Durant. Bertans is a shooter, Steve. This doesn't count. Like, it's not his fault. He shoots threes. What's he supposed to do when Durant turns the corner on Lopez?
KD's balding.
He's like, oh, God.
Got the LeBron effect.
Shame he can't play defense.
Before the half, Durant, alley-oop.
You don't see him chasing down nothing except the mailman to get his checks.
No, I said balding, not balling.
Breaks loose. Off the miss.
Oh,
yeah. He's got that LeBron effect. Back of his head, he's balding.
Right, here we go. We're going down the stretch.
$1:30 left in the game. Joe Harris, shooter.
Former Cavalier, bingo.
The leads back to 5.
Looking good for the Nets. Now it's getting down to crunch time. And look at this. They've tied the game.
Game tied at 1.
That's a mistake. There we go.
The clock, we're a little off here. Next possession. Here comes Kyrie. Bottoms. Nets back in front by 2. 20 seconds left. Wizards down 3. Bradley Beal. Westbrook. Nets are going to live with that shot.
Now look at this.
Out of bounds.
There's going to be 12.3 seconds left. They're up by 3 and they have the ball. Now they're up by 5.
All right, 13 seconds to go. 5-point game. Beal steps right into that 3. Barrett off the inbound. A miscommunication between Harris and Durant. Garrison Matthews steals. Westbrook.
It's like Reggie Miller,
The Wizards are ahead. They are. They're up by 1. 1 chance left for the Nets after this sequence of the Beal 3. The steal off the...
Now, this is a great story in Washington because there hasn't been nothing else going on in Washington. We have the Nets, who are the league's darlings because they have the new, big 3. So watch how they attempt desperately to cheat the Wizards at the end of this game. And the only reason they don't get away with it is the sheer ineptitude of the Nets. Watch this. And if you didn't see this ending, it's ridiculous. And I'm going to stop it for you. They're showing this again. Here we go. We got an inbounds play coming here. All right. Here's Kyrie inbounding the ball. And there's only 2.9 seconds left. So there's time to catch and make a move and all that stuff. But there's a rule in the NBA, and it says that Kyrie Irving cannot run up and down the baseline or do anything like that. That would constitute traveling. He's got to stay still in one place, correct? And then, and that's why the man who's got his arms up in front of him is deterring the pass down deep into the lane. But if you're the Nets and you've got the big three, rules don't matter. Watch this bullshit.
1 point lead. Nets have 2.9 left. Off the inbounds, Timothé Luwawu Cabarro.
Watch Kyrie on the pass. Bung, 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 bung.
That's going to be on Shackton and Fool.
Somehow they miss a point-blank shot. Durant had 37-7. Westbrook and Beal got 78.
I mean, for God's sakes. And, what can I tell you? That's the NBA in a nutshell. And I'm going to go ahead and stop the screen here. That is what they do. And if that guy would have laid it in, they would have said, hey, what a great play it is. Oh, the Nets! But no, they missed the layup, which is typical of the way the Nets season's going because they're not that far above 500 with all these great players that they have.
Hey, Moo, do you think that because the thing that everybody was talking about was Harden's weight from Houston to now being in New York, do you think he wore a fat suit? Because that's kind of the big theory on all these chat boards I'm hearing. And I've seen side-by-side pictures, and it's hard to deny. I mean, it looks like he did.
He looks to me, though, like he's not as quick as he used to be. If you're asking me what I think of his performance in Brooklyn,
No, I mean, I don't mean performance. I mean like physical shape. Like if you look up a side-by-side picture of the two,
that you think he's in better shape now than he was.
Like not just better shape, like way better shape in just like a few days or whatever. So, I mean, it's hard not.
Those steroids are a hell of a drug.
Maybe.
Well, my belief is they don't play defense. You're losing games 149 to 146. I mean, come on. There's no defense being played. And, I can do an impersonation of the big three.
You found Barry Bonds' Lux flaxseed oil.
Here's my impression of their big three. That's what they do. Give me the ball. Whoever touches the ball first on an offensive possession, it's the last. They don't play a lick of defense. None of these guys are out there. And let's be honest about it. Durant got a free ride in Golden State to a championship. He's never led a team by himself. James Harden had his crack with Durant in his prime, and it didn't get it done back then. Hasn't done it anywhere else. And Kyrie Irving made a big three for the Cavaliers, in the championship win, but was pissed off because he wasn't the main guy, and LeBron refused to give him the keys to the car, if you remember that. And the NBA will help this team and do anything they can to get these named stars into the finals any way they can. And it's lame.
And it's not like the East is full of a bunch of tough teams. I mean, you got the Bucks, and I mean, off the top of my head, that's about it.
But Giannis is just like I don't know. It's like a waste of my time going over the end. Joel Hans Embiid. He's the only 7-foot guy who will just disappear in the playoffs completely. He does every single time. That's what the process is. It's giving up in the postseason.
At least for credit to Giannis, at least he didn't take one of these big contracts to go to another big name market, like what LeBron did with the Lakers and what you see these guys doing all the time. At least he stayed.
Well, I mean, I don't have – I mean, Durant's a fabulously talented player, but if you want to hold him to the same standard that you're going to hold LeBron to, and Kobe to, and Jordan to, and Bill Russell too. It's about championships now, isn't it? That's the argument they keep making to tell me why LeBron is not the greatest of all time. They throw up the championships. What the fuck has Kevin Durant done to actually win a championship for a team? And the answer is nothing. Nothing at all. But yeah, that's what they'll let them travel. And you can't tell me that the referee who's standing right there on the baseline with him, moving out of the way, going, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm in your way, Kyrie. You got to move here."
Well, I just think that's a big court and referees can't see everything that's going on. So it could very well be that the referee didn't see what was going on because they were looking at something else that was happening on the court at that time. You can't expect a referee to see everything.
Yeah, he was distracted by the fans. Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying he was looking at another player making another play on the court and didn't happen to see what was going on there on the side of the court.
Oh, I get it now. I didn't understand it first. I get it now.
Brooklyn Nets. I mean, has anybody ever told you look a lot like Spike Lee?
I get that all the time.
Anybody tell you sound more like Whoopi Goldberg than you do Stephen A. Smith?
Have you picked your big word for the day that you're going to pretend to be smart?
I am going to look one up as we speak.
There you go.
As the show progresses, I will have a big word later on.
And when you do, it'll be a serious big word. I'm sure that that's the case. At any rate, for those, Dustin Pedroia, knee injury, gone for good. I mean, he never was able to recover. He's retired from Major League Baseball. He was a great player for the Red Sox, a real team player, but had a knee problem in the end that he just could not get around. The Major League Players Association is thinking about Major League Baseball's pitch, and that a play on words, for playing a delayed 154-game season. I mean, you know, it's coming back again. The realization that this summer, with the mutation of this particular virus, that it's not going to be gone. And Major League Baseball is like, nah.
Hey, have they announced when they're going to release the new name for the Indians?
Well, that's not going to happen until, well, I mean, first of all,
just let me enjoy this goddamn farewell season, Fish. Come on.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just saying I didn't know if they announced a date or anything.
It'll probably be July or August.
I really have reservations about it, though.
Wouldn't it make sense to just call them Tribe? Or is that too offensive? Like, I'm not joking. I'm just saying seriously. Because it makes sense.
Well, tribe is actually not an offensive word in and of itself. I mean, you know, if somebody came up to me and because I'm Jewish and they say, "Hey, I'm a member of your tribe," you know.
But don't they already have like, because that was one of their like nicknames.
So
right?
which one of the 13 are you?
Stephanie, I think this guy, you know, needs to check out the lump in his pants. What do you have to say about this guy? Best Impact.
Well, I have a song for Best Impact. I do sing also. I'm a creep. I'm a weirdo. What the hell am I doing here? I don't belong here.
This is fantastic.
Thank you. Thank you. Radiohead, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes.
They all just keeled over and died right on stage.
And Best Impact lost his heart on instantly with the idea.
She's so very special.
Yeah, so very special. Yeah.
We don't care.
And a quick shout out to my favorite Texanadian, Key.
Oh, yeah. Oh, talk about bulging pants. Not Key. No, that was what do you call an awkward segue. I was referring to Brian.
Well, nobody knows what Brian's into. Let's not assume.
That's true. And we can't be judgmental. This is the Biden administration. We cannot be judgmental now.
Only when it comes to conservatives.
You want to know how bad things are in Michigan? University of Michigan not only says, "Hey, come on back, Mr. Harbaugh, and fuck us some more and harder." Well, now the ex-Michigan Wolverines quarterback Dylan McCaffrey, the guy who is supposed to have gotten a chance over and over again, once he got wind of Harbaugh coming back, he's just decided to transfer out of there. I mean, he couldn't get his career started. And you want to know the amazing thing? He was a backup to Shea Patterson in 2019. He hasn't been able to get out on the field. And then they're bringing idiot Harbaugh back. So what does he do? He must have aspirations to become a professional quarterback because he signed to play for his father at Northern Colorado University, which is interesting because that's an online college. So they don't even actually play the games virtually. They don't actually play
like the Pro Bowl was this year.
Yeah, right. Yeah. No, it's a real school. The University of Northern Colorado is in Flagstaff, I'd imagine, which is a nice town. Don't get me wrong. But nobody is going to watch him play there except his mother and father who live there, which would be good for Brian Kelly because he says the parents should always be there. So that's really kind of a good thing. All right, Browns fans, you wanted something. And I know that Derek is here for a reason because I see what he's posting. I did want to comment, Derek.
One of how many things I post.
This is coming from somebody with a broadcasting background, and I do check your videos out. By the way, Derek, I do.
Oh, I should be scared.
You did one from your car, and you asked everybody what they thought of the facial hair you were trying to grow, and you can't set up trolls that way, man. I mean, I'm just telling you off the top. I mean, it isn't like Norelco is going to come after you for
Did you listen to my explanation, though?
I didn't have to.
No, but
I was eating something and I got ill.
But here's the thing. So when I was younger, if you look at all my pictures, I was like very, very blonde. And since I got older, my hair's darkened a bit. Like in the summer, it'll still get a little bit more blonde. But I think that's what it was, is, whatever facial hair I had, because I could grow some. It was just coming in super light. So I went out, and you're going to make fun of me for this. I really don't care. But I went out and got some of that Just for Men stuff, and it worked.
What did you use it for?
For what I had.
My buddy,
One can only imagine.
We would have a black hole,
He used it for his armpit hair.
No, I mean, let's just say that nobody would mistake you for Abraham Lincoln unless there was a gun pointed from behind you in a theater. Nobody would. No, I'm just kidding. But just be careful because there are trolls out there waiting to take advantage of you for no apparent reason.
Well, I mean, we're not trolls here, so how come we can't see the facial hair that's going on? I mean, why can't we see what we're discussing? Why won't you show your facial hair on camera today?
I don't even know how good this camera is. You want me to turn it on?
Yeah. Let's see what you're doing. Okay, let's go, Derek. Here we go.
Wait.
All right, we're going to throw him up there.
Oh, boy.
Shut up, Brian. You live in your mom's basement.
I don't see any facial hair at all.
Jesus.
Is that a shadow?
Well, I'm in the dark here. Hold on, let me turn on the light.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I want to see the facial hair.
He looks like Radar O'Reilly.
Actually, you know what? Hold on. I'm just going to put this stupid thing on.
I'm not sure what Key's getting at here. I remember WD-40, and none of my girlfriends wanted to use that shit. Just saying. The only one who ever benefited from WD-40 was Squeaky Fromm. All right, now these are all things that I don't expect you to know, but you can look them up on the internet.
I did there.
Key, with a generation like Derek, that's not the type of DP he knows. So let's
let me see. That was Lindor to Hernandez to Naylor.
yeah. Shit.
All right. Well, Derek is still futzing around.
It
So
ain't
what-
turning on. I don't know why.
It's all right. I mean, that was the same problem that the woman
He
had with
broke
the
it.
sleeping Tony. He just wouldn't turn on. It happens, you know.
Oh, wait a minute. Here we go.
Oh, you lost your camera.
Nope.
There
we go.
he is. There he is.
Jeez.
All right, let's see. Oh, I see. You're
Little
trying
bit.
to go a little Baker Mayfield. Is that what you're doing?
You see it?
Yeah.
So
I
It
can
ain't
just barely see that. It's just a little bit. Keep working on it, young man.
well, I guess I'll take my never mind. I'm not even gonna say it.
It is caterpillar season, so at least down here in Florida, we got that going for us.
Mustache rides $2.50 at Derek's house, I guess.
You have a cat as your profile picture. Why are you making fun of me?
Hey, Key, you know why Dr. Pepper only is served from bottles?
Oh boy.
Oh Lord.
No. You
Three
really,
packs.
no. I blew the joke. Why does Dr. Pepper come in bottles? Thank you.
Well, your mother always said you should marry up.
Because the can edges were too sharp. All right. So there you go, Key. Something.
Oh, hey, by the way, I do have something useful. I decided to write out like a prospect page. So whenever it comes time for draft stuff, I have a list here for you.
Yeah, because the story I was bringing up next are the defensive ends in the 2021 draft that the Browns might be interested in targeting. But, honestly, it's not like
It ain't great.
26. Well, at 26, you're not going to get the top, the top pass rushing defensive ends. That's the problem. When you have a good season like the Browns did at 26, you can get a good solid lineman, but you're not going to get like a freak. You're not going to get a Myles Garrett kind of player, an explosive guy.
Well, the problem is all these guys who are at the top did not play a whole lot. Or when they came on, as far as the well-known scene, as far as, hey, this is a top prospect, they weren't proven. So you're kind of guessing.
Yeah. And again, I don't think that any of the players that I'm seeing here, Gregory Rousseau out of Miami, is a guy whose name is coming up. And again, I don't say that I know a hell of a lot about this shit. Carlos Basham Jr. From Wake Forest, and he's an edge rusher. He could go in the top 20, but he might not. All right,
Just depends.
but chances are, knowing the price that people pay for these guys, Russo and Basham are supposed to be gone off the board by the time the Browns pick, which would leave them with maybe Jordan Smith out of University of Alabama, Birmingham. And, 12 and a half sacks. He had a lot of tackles for loss. So he's the guy who penetrates, and he likes that.
Here's a name that is worth paying attention to. He might go before, but I could see him slipping and being certainly an option. J.C. Horn, corner out of South Carolina, if that's where the Browns want to go.
Yeah, there's so many different directions. The one thing I think that all of us would agree on is that there's a better chance of getting an impact linebacker than there is of getting an impact defensive end. And an impact linebacker can help you if you have the right scheme to put pressure on the quarterback. So
The problem
go ahead.
The problem is, though, and a lot of people are talking about it, with the Browns, the way they have schemed up this defense with the coaching staff, if Joe Woods is going to remain DC, which all signs point to that, it's all about the front four and the back. You know, they don't value linebackers. So that's my only concern here is, you could have a decent selection at 26. The top 3 guys probably won't be there, and the guys after that might be too much of a reach. And I don't know if
didn't Joe Woods have really good linebackers in San Francisco?
I mean, yeah, they had. I mean, Fred Warner kind of came on. He wasn't like, if I'm remembering right, he wasn't a guy who they, had thinking he was going to be, an impact guy like he is. But I mean, you look at the front four they had. I mean, that's why they took Nick Bosa at the top of the draft. It's because basically what they do is they just say, hey, let the front four go. And then we have guys in the backfield that can give them enough time to get there. Could be different with the Browns, but who knows?
Yeah, and as far as a cornerback, I mean, hell, I looked at a number that showed our safeties in general were not good, but Pindejo was a PFF number of 87 out of 92 players at his position. That's unbelievable. He was as bad statistically, analytically, as he was to the human eye. The PFF numbers on Jedrick Wills Jr. was 34 out of 38, which is not good.
What was do you know off the top? Do you know off the top of your head what the other rookie tackles were? Like the top ones?
No, I can tell you that, in the Browns line, it was what you thought. I think Bitonio was number 4. Teller was number 1 at his position. And Shredder was high at his position. But I would have thought Jedrick Wills would have fared a little bit better than that. But again, a rookie who doesn't make glaring errors when you're switching him from right tackle at college level to left tackle is somebody who's going to be a force to be reckoned with in the NFL because, continuing to work with his line coach here with Callahan, my goodness, the sky's the limit for the guy. But the safeties in Cleveland, I mean, and it's funny, somebody was posting on Twitter saying, well, the Browns have speed in the secondary, but it's all Greedy Williams and Delpit speed that's injured all the time. And the speed don't mean nothing if it ain't playing. And what we had out there was positively no help behind anybody. So, yes, I'd love to have a shutdown corner, but it ain't going to happen at 26. I think we can get a really badass, hard-hitting safety in at 26.
Well, the thing about the safeties this year is, and this is not my opinion, I haven't done a whole lot of looking into the safeties. I know Holland out of Oregon is very good, but the safeties this year, there's no one that really sets themselves apart, if you know what I'm saying. So they're expecting safeties to slip, kind of like they did this past season, or I'm sorry, this past draft, where you saw Winfield and McKinney and Delpit. These guys go more mid-top second round. That's what they're expecting again this year.
Before I forget, it's something I didn't mention back at the top of the show, and I hate going backwards, but with Steve Nash being a first-time NBA coach and being put in a situation where he has the 3 prima donnas on his team, and I shouldn't include Durant in that, although he really pussified seriously by selling out to Golden State. But honestly, they make a big 3, and you have to just inbound the ball. Don't you call a timeout? Why was Joe Harris rushing the ball in that resulted in the steal that allowed Washington to take that lead. And why isn't anyone talking about that? I don't know. I look at it like I'm a Cleveland fan. Oh, I'd be going absolutely ape shit if my head coach made a bad bonehead call like that, because you got a timeout. You could advance the ball. It's like, hello.
Jesus, even Eric Polstra wasn't that bad.
Yeah, exactly. But at any rate, as far as the Browns are concerned, what we have to get, we know, is defense. The problem that I saw is that either the players were so bad or Joe Woods had no identity.
I think it's both.
And that's what worries me. It's like with what we had offensively, and I'm not saying that we had great receivers, because Donovan Peoples-Jones and Rashard Higgins don't qualify, and Harrison Bryant don't factor in to being great, weapons. Landry is a really good possession receiver. We know that he's a fine football player, and the guy who was supposed to be the breakaway threat gone. But we had an identity. There was a certain consistency, and as the season progressed, you saw what he was doing with Baker and the positions and situations that he was putting Baker in, the play calls, especially even when AVP took over the play calling duty in the Pittsburgh game. You could see that there wasn't nearly the pressure on Baker. It's almost as if, analytically or sensibly or however it was accomplished, that the play calling really emphasized the strength of the way the offensive line blocked and maximized the time that Baker got. But the defense, it was like this malleable, they always called it bend but not break, but it broke too much. So I don't know what you'd call it. Like a cheap condom defense. It puts up very passive resistance.
Hey, now, because of the trades we made last season or last time during the draft, moving back, I believe we have 2 3s. Do you think we could possibly move up?
The problem is, who do you have defensively that you feel good about? Because Ogunjobi's gone on the defensive line. All right. They're going to let him take a powder because he's free agent.
And Vernon's gone because he'll be out all of next year anyway, even if they do want him back.
Right. And but Vernon is a free agent. All right.
Oh, that's right. He restructured. I'm sorry.
That's right. He restructured. He's a free agent. So that's 2. Sheldon Richardson had a nice enough season for the Browns, but not, you're going to need defensive linemen. That's because you're not going to continue Porter Gustoning your way into the playoff. You need help there.
I read if they cut Sheldon Richardson, they will gain $12 million.
They'll gain $12 million, but again, what you're saying is then we're going to have to load up on defensive linemen. We definitely need a corner. We definitely need a safety. That's 3, all right? And what's going to come from draft? What's going to come from free agency? And the reality is that the NFL draft is not, I was looking at a number of selections that teams made last year, and, the real difference makers, few and far between. The free agency market is always where hay could be made if you can bring in the right kind of person.
And I think there's going to be a lot more trades this year than any other year because there is so much unpredictability with this draft. And if you have guys like J.J. Watt in Houston and he wants out and they're completely, restructuring, that's a guy, especially here, I think that would be an option depending on what they want. But I think you're going to see a lot of trades for a lot of guys who might be a little bit not up there in age, but leaning that way, that could get, 2, 3, 4 years, good years left.
But I don't see Watt. I just don't see this whole Deshaun Watson Watt thing going down. I think everybody in Houston, in the mecca of football, is talking about letting Watson walk, and they're just not gonna. I mean, can you imagine, as bad as they are now, how demoralized the team would become if their quarterback and their single best pass rusher and really an absolute beast in the league, both of those guys are gone. The other players will just say, well, it's obvious this organization is not about winning, and they turn into the Cleveland Browns overnight, not the current Browns, but the old Browns, where, nobody knew what they were doing, what was going on, arguments in the front office. And that's what started to happen with the Texans is they hire Caserio, but then it turns out they really didn't talk to anybody else. They didn't consult anybody. And, they didn't talk to the quarterback about it. They just did it. And it's looks like the Mickey Mouse shit that went on in Cleveland for the better part of 2 decades. And,
how about Dorsey
in the 1-31?
How about Dorsey down there in Detroit there for a couple of days and they make that deal? Wasn't him, but
John Dorsey. They hired John Dorsey in Detroit.
Oh, did they really?
3 days before the Matt Stafford trade.
And he totally fleeced.
LA.
That was incredible.
Look, when the problem that they're going to have with Dorsey, we already know, but you sell your soul, and there's always teams that are desperate enough to try to turn things around, and God only knows. The Lions have been such an abortion over the course of the recent history, and with Spielman as a consultant in this process and the hard-nosed attitude of the head coach, they've got to get a general manager. And I did not see that he was.
Well, Dorsey's not the general manager.
Yeah,
he's like the player personnel. What we wanted him to do here is essentially what he's doing in Detroit.
Really?
Yeah.
Yep.
So he settled for that.
Yeah, a senior consultant, what the hell is the word?
He's basically the head scout, but
a little senior
bit
scout, senior player personnel type.
So what power does he wield? What's the purpose of hiring that guy?
I mean, really nothing. Just kind of give his.
Who's the general manager?
I don't know if they have one yet.
I'll tell you, I wouldn't want to be that motherfucker.
I don't think it's William Clay Ford. He's been dead for years.
Yes. It's funny that putting together the old slogan, Ford has a better idea. It's like, incorrect. Yeah.
But I don't think this move, I still look for the Lions to pick a quarterback there at 7, if the right one's there. Goff is going to be their bridge guy. They only got him. Now, the word is they did like him. So my guess is they're going to work him out and see if he can rejuvenate his career there. But I think, to me, they basically said, hey, we'll take this contract off your hands. Give us the future.
The Lions hired the Rams director of college scouting by the name of Brad Holmes
as the GM.
As their GM.
He's going to be cannibalized by Dorsey. God help his soul.
Yeah.
God help his soul. That is the problem with John Dorsey, is that he just gets territorial. And if he sees the back door into that job, he will intimidate the hell out of that first-time GM and drive him up a wall.
Motor City Dan Campbell. He's not a pushover.
John Dorsey's official title is Senior Personnel Executive.
And, this whole Goff thing, it's really amazing. I remember when he came out of college, and the question about how skinny his legs were and how he would be prone to damage at the professional level. But that was never the thing. That I never thought that he really had good arm strength.
9 picks to get him and to get rid of him. combined. 9.
Yeah, they don't have a
picks.
first-round pick until like 2025.
I mean, it's really, and it started out fine for him, but I was never impressed with his arm strength. And the answer for Alistair is no. I did not see the Nick Caserio opening press conference. But there have been some real dandies around the league.
And I'd be totally honest, with Detroit having, I think it's the 6th or 7th pick, it wouldn't surprise me to see Jared Goff go along the way to somebody else.
How old is Matthew Stafford now?
32.
Yeah,
I think he's turning 32. Like,
he's
in
still got a couple
days.
good years left.
Well, you know what's funny about him? Isn't he the wealthiest quarterback who's ever played the game based on his contracts? If you take a look,
No, I think that's still Eli Manning.
take a look. Take a look at the first 2 professional contracts that this guy, when he first got, and then his second contract. He was in the right place at the right time. I don't think that anybody has been higher paid than Matthew Stafford. I could be wrong about this, but I remember this being talked about. And it's great that he's out of Detroit because, you know, that's the Joe Thomas situation that never happened for Joe. And, you know, but, you know, where is he going and how is he going to approach a new offensive scheme? And at 32, what's left in the tank? And
But do you really think this makes the Rams like top level contenders?
No.
To give up 2 first-round picks, a third from this year, and Jared Goff. Not that he has value, but
you lose ground. You know, you're either trying to create today or you're trying to create tomorrow. Or if you're some lousy teams, you're just floating along the River Rhine, and you're just like
you sound like Harry Shearer doing the Reverend from The Simpsons.
I mean, I don't see.
And then Beelzebub said,
I don't see that the Rams really, you know. It's a terrible thing when you draft the wrong guy with the high pick, and we know it in Cleveland. And it really does create a hole. And they did what they had to do because they have some of the pieces to be an effective football team. And before they lose control of those players or those players get old and beaten up, they had to go for the quarterback who was the experienced quarterback. But there is no indication that Matthew Stafford can play well in big games if they get the big game.
But they didn't even draft the quarterback. They traded up to draft the quarterback. So they not only are they giving up picks to get rid of him, they had to pay to get him.
Right. It's a double whammy.
Stafford is the 3rd richest quarterback in the league, obviously not named Brady or Roethlisberger, behind Matt Ryan and Russell Wilson.
Yeah, I mean, but would you expect his name to be up that high? But he's been in the quarterback market, whatever his contract expired, it was like the value at the position went through the roof.
Yep.
But I really don't see that as being the coup de grace. You know, oh, look what we're doing. We're the Buccaneers. We're bringing in Tom Brady. You know, it's not that. It's not that at all. And Jared Goff, it's just another example of what you know and don't know about young quarterbacks and how quickly it can change. I mean, Baker Mayfield went from a guy who played in his rookie year, who showed some real promise, to being a bust in his second year in a system that was horrible. And in his third year, it's like, well, he's a good game manager with a chance of really being more. And we're starting to see him develop, but you don't know. And it's what they're saying about Tua in Miami. Even he came out to the press and said, I think I'm the franchise quarterback, but I got to show these people. And it's not easy to do when your head coach pulls you out of every important game you could possibly playing so a 38-year-old guy can take your place. Somebody in that organization is having second doubts about Tua.
Well, not only that, how many times do you have the chance to get a top 3 pick when you have 3, especially 2, but really 3 to 5 good quarterbacks, and you're picking there at 3. So if you are not sold on Tua, then I mean, I don't want to say just get rid of him, but you certainly need to consider.
Yeah, I just, the risk in the quarterback is so well worth it. Were you going to say something, Stephanie?
I have some very strong opinions when it comes to draft picks. I think that not only do you have to look at the person's skill, but you want to see if that person is a gadabout. Because if they are a gadabout, then that means that their social life can get in the way of how they play the game. You don't want that.
How do you feel about players on weed, Stephanie?
Players on weed. If they get caught, then it's wrong.
You haven't watched enough Stephen A. Smith. Look up Stephen A. Smith and weed.
I'll have to get right on that. Who is this Stephen A. Smith that you speak of? Look him up right now.
You know, you keep doing that voice, you know. What was the name? Etta May? Oh, my love. Whoopi Goldberg in Ghost. That's who you're starting to sound like.
I couldn't even think of any good Whoopi Goldberg quotes from Ghost just now.
What about Jumpin' Jack Flash? I'm a little black woman in a big silver box.
I missed that movie, thank goodness.
I could probably give you a whole hell of a lot of quotes from The Color Purple, though. Everybody should watch that movie, The Color Purple.
Go, give us a great quote.
Oh, let's see. Whoops. I can't even think of one right now.
That's what you got.
Every quote I'm thinking of is coming from Oprah in that movie right now.
All right, you're full screen now, Stephanie.
You got any good Star Wars quotes?
Joking. You got to come up with the quote from Color Purple.
How about, okay, well, this was Oprah Winfrey's famous line. You told Hoppo to beat me. I love Hoppo. God knows I do. But I'll kill him dead before I let him beat me. Now, you want a dead son-in-law, Miss Seeley? You keep on advising him like you've been doing.
You got a Hulk Hogan impersonation?
Yeah, I'll work on that for next week.
What you gonna do, brother?
Brother.
Let me tell you something, brother.
God. Yeah. And, you know, my show cannot be complete without talking about the Cavaliers and that horrible game. And Tony's happy.
Yeah, my team sucks ass.
Well, you know, I got to ask you something because, you know, it's not like I watched the Timberwolves, but could you imagine a worse strategy than what the Cavaliers threw at them? It's like, okay, so Karl Anthony Towns isn't playing. We're going to force feed the ball every time to Drummond, and we're just going to keep, and we're not going to shoot any threes. And we're playing a team that shoots nothing but threes. And if they get hot and we keep forcing the ball into a defense with arms flailing all over and we turn the ball over, I mean, we couldn't have done a worse job as far as it's like I've watched the Cavaliers go up and down the floor with the goddamn Brooklyn Nets. What's the problem here? You don't have Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant and James Harden. You got D'Angelo Russell, and you've got a bunch of guys who shoot 38% from the field. And it wasn't that the Timberwolves played well, is that the Cavaliers just, for some godforsaken reason, just decided, well, we're not going to do anything. We're not going to move the ball around. We're going to throw the ball in and let Drummond from 15 feet away charge into the lane and chuck him up. It was crazy.
It was awful. With how injured we are, you know, Towns has COVID, and you know, we're missing Hernan Gomez, we're missing Culver, we're missing fucking Nas. We're missing half the roster, and we suck anyways. there's no reason the Cavs shouldn't have beaten us by 15 to 20 points last
And we
night.
play you again tonight, and there's no guarantee. I'll tell you what I saw yesterday, and I'm still trying to find out why Jetty Osmond and Larry Nance Jr. were arguing so loudly on the shot that made the game go from 102-100 to 105-100. I think it was the one that put the Nets up by 5 points. It was the one that D'Angelo threw his arms up like, finally, I made something.
Yeah.
And nobody covered him. And Larry Nance Jr., who is a very efficient defensive player, was jawing at Jetty Osmond, who is as dumb as a stump, God only knows. And so those two guys were arguing on the court. It had to be absolutely draining for Colin Sexton, who's averaging 25 points a game, to throw the ball in to Drummond and never see it again and never get any fucking shots off.
No.
I mean, it was crazy. It was like the worst thing I've ever seen. And to make it even worse is looking at Drummond laughing on the court when he's at the free throw line. He doesn't give a flying fuck. I urged the Cleveland Cavaliers to get rid of him because he hasn't won any place he's been. He doesn't make anyone around him better. He gets his numbers, but the team doesn't win. And once he eats that ball down low, it's the black hole. It never comes back out. And he's not a good shooter. And he's not even as good a player as Jared Allen is. Jared Allen can actually make better moves to the basket, has a better touch around the basket, and actually has a 15-foot shot, which Drummond has a shot put from 15 feet and in. And watch him get pushed around. You know, if you say, well, we need that size, watch him against the Knicks. Did you see he scored 4 fucking points against the Knicks? He literally shriveled up like Bob Dole's dick in a cold shower, for Christ's sake. He was getting pushed around by the Knicks. The Knicks just, you know, Thibodeau's defense got physical with the Cavaliers. And where was Drummond? Nowhere to be found. He is just bad news. Not that he's a bad fellow. He just doesn't bring it, but once in a blue moon. Let's let Jared Allen play. Let's let JaVale McGee back him up. And let's just move on from this guy, please.
Well, you get the chance tonight. Andre Drummond back and Larry Nance Jr. wrist are both out.
Oh, so he's using his back as an excuse?
Yeah.
Well, Larry Nance, the wrist didn't, it was a no-go. You could see that he just couldn't shoot the ball. Couldn't shoot it at all. And, you know, and the problem with Jetty Osmond is that he's shooting 38% from the floor, not from three, from the floor. He's turning the ball over like there's no tomorrow, and he's confused as hell on defense. Watch him get beat off the dribble consistently against whomever he's guarding. We have some holes and some problems here. But at the heart of it, and I'm calling out Bickerstaff, it's like you can't be so one-dimensional where, you know, and the other thing I didn't understand is I know he likes to slide into zones, but you don't play a zone with a bunch of young guys who can get hot from three when you're not shooting any threes yourself. Who devised all of this? So, you know, it was very disappointing. And if you haven't seen the Cavaliers' upcoming schedule, after this Minnesota game, oh my God.
Murderers fucking row.
Oh my God. It's the Lakers and it's the Bucks and who else? I mean, it's just like every good team.
We've got, come on.
But they're not going to win a one of them. That I can tell you. Not one.
Is Kevin Love ever going to be traded?
No, because they've got so much invested in him. No one's going to pay up to value on him. And to be honest with you, they will, when he's ready to play, they will need him as a stretch four, because right now we have a problem that our threes are all coming from our two guards, and we're not getting anything from, and I don't expect much from Okoro because he's just a young kid who's feeling his way through the league. and Jetty can't shoot the ball. And, we don't have anybody who can rebound along with Jared Allen and stretch the floor at the same time. So
here we go. We got the Wolves tonight, home against the Clippers on Wednesday, then Friday, Saturday, back-to-back against Milwaukee, Monday at Phoenix, who's better, then at Denver, at Portland, at the Clippers, at the Warriors, home against the Spurs is the next 3 weeks for the Cavs.
Yeah, and that's what turns a 500 or close to 500 season right down into the shitter. And it's really hard for young teams. And what I see is the biggest part of the problem is when they see a veteran like Andre Drummond only interested in himself and his own numbers. It's, I couldn't believe when he was trying to take on 3 men and go to the basket. It was nauseating because he can't shoot free throws. But if you got to lose, you just foul him. He'll miss one of the two. I mean, it's just a shame.
I didn't mind the strategy because we didn't. The only person we have that's a big man is Ed Reed, who's healthy, or Ed Davis, not Ed Reed. But to go back to it every single fucking possession. You out rebounded us like 30. Him and Nance 38 to like 24. Our whole team.
Yeah, but it didn't matter.
Didn't matter.
The turnovers and the threes. I mean, that's the whole thing right there. If you take a look at how many threes, you made 40% of your threes. Yep. And what was it? 14 threes that you made? How many?
Yeah. 14, yep.
And and the Cavaliers only made what, 4?
Yeah. 36% from the field or something like that on threes.
Yeah. I mean, the Cavaliers were outscored in threes by 30 points, and they turned the ball over like 21 times. I mean, you put those two things together and you looked at how they were scoring. It was either transition from turnovers or 3-point shots. There was no discernible offensive pattern by the Timberwolves, but we found a way to lose the game. And that's, not taking anything away from Minnesota because, every NBA team is going to win. They're going to beat somebody. You just don't want it to be you. And the Cavaliers just made it easy for them. And they're going to go at it again, 7:30 tonight?
Yeah, in Cleveland this time.
So the final thing I wanted to say before we get out of here is the lip service is unbelievable. Green Bay Packers general manager on Aaron Rodgers. He's our quarterback and he's our leader. Well, don't you think you ought to hire a coach who feels the same way? I don't understand how it is that an organization can have a guy for as many years as they've had Aaron Rodgers. They get to a penultimate game and they don't let him. They don't let him do what he has to do. I was pissed off that they didn't let Baker do what he should have done. I don't give a flying fuck. It's Chad Henne or who's out on the field. You got the rock in your hand. You got to move the football. You got to score the winning touchdown because there ain't no fucking tomorrow and you'll never see the ball again. And for that to have happened in Green Bay is, and I know that Aaron Rodgers doesn't want to go someplace else, although he sees Brady and maybe his eyes get a little bigger, but he's not going to go to a team that's going to be really better off than where he is, but he wasn't given a chance. And I feel the same way about Tua. They can all sit back and say, he's our guy, until you really put everything in the hands of that leader. You can't say that. And we can't say that about Baker Mayfield yet either, because that 4th and 9, we did not go for it. And damn it, Ben Roethlisberger in his prime would have gotten the opportunity to go for that. All of the quarterbacks who are the big name quarterbacks, you don't take that out of their hands. That's like saying to LeBron James, no, we don't want you to go for the final shot. They're all waiting on you, so we want you to throw it off to Jetty Osmond. It's like, well, what the fuck? Well, that's what the Browns did. They turned it over to Jetty Osmond, their defense, and they couldn't stop Chad fucking Henne. And that's what happened to Rodgers, and it's really unfortunate. And now he's our guy. What I want to see from the Cleveland Browns is, instead of fans doubting Baker Mayfield, I want to see him given full opportunity to prove who he is one way or the other. That's what I want to see. And I want, and everybody, I would compare Baker Mayfield to Bernie Kosar in one regard. He may not be the guy who everyone in America wants. I mean, Bernie Kosar was a quarterback who was really in the shadow of the big guys, Kelly and Marino and that whole gang. But Bernie Kosar was a Northeastern Ohio kid. He was efficient. He was accurate. He didn't throw interceptions. And he played in that Infante scheme at first, and he understood the scheme. And if you really looked at him, the difference between he and Baker is that Bernie threw a more accurate deep ball. But if you look at their numbers, Baker's efficiency numbers are better than Kosar's. And
keep in mind, Baker Baker hasn't been in a system consistently. He's had constant change in every aspect.
I mean, 28-6, 28 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. I mean, that seems to me the kind of year that led Nick Foles to a Super Bowl, if I'm correct. The numbers were almost identical. And it's like, I don't know what you wanted him to do within this system, but the system isn't. I mean, Baker Mayfield can throw the ball further than Aaron Rodgers. He's got a strong arm, but that's not what they're trying to introduce into Cleveland. They know that the weakness of Baker Mayfield is that if you give him too much to swallow, he'll over swallow too much. He'll put too much pressure on himself. He'll force things, and that's when the accidents and the mistakes happen. They're trying to keep him cool-headed and in a system that, really emphasizes what they have on the field. I mean, honestly, I don't want him scrambling around the pocket, waiting and hoping that Donovan Peoples-Jones and Harrison Bryant and all those people are going to come back for the ball when they haven't even played in the NFL. I want a scheme that is very tight to the vest, that is easily understood. This is my first progression, my second progression. If those two things are gone, fire the bitch out of bounds. Don't try to be Big Ben. Don't go there because you don't have the receivers that he had. Not yet.
Well, and I think that's the good news for this offseason is now that Stefanski and AVP and all these guys have a better sense of who Baker is as a player. I think at least, like, we can talk about, Stefanski was too conservative and whatnot, but I think now that they're going to have time to review it, kind of like how they did at the bye week, where the offense was a little bit switched up and things were just a little bit better. I think that's what this offseason, I think that's what the whole purpose on offense is going to be. I think they're going to sit down. First of all, I think they're going to sit down with OBJ and figure out if they can work him into the offense, not work the offense around him. And if they can't, you move on, figure it out. If they can figure it out, then use him in the role they want to, and build the offense from there off of what Baker's good at. But the problem is now you're going to have to look at, hey, we need speed. Can OBJ give us that speed? Yes, no. If not, then you're going to have to go out and find that person.
Yeah. And key, no, we're not going to be getting Watson. That's we have a better chance of getting Sherlock Holmes than we do of getting Watson. And I really don't honestly think that there's any reason for the Browns to even be considering such a move. Right now, offensively, we're in a pretty good place, and we have good depth on the offensive line, and we have great running backs. We have a couple of really good, reliable receivers. I think Hooper's a very reliable tight end. I think Landry, if he doesn't fall apart into 6 pieces, is a very reliable possession receiver. And what OBJ we get back, I think that if he sees that the players around him have bought into this system, he's going to be the odd man out if he doesn't. And I don't think that the teammates are going to put up with him. I think that they'll drum him out if he just starts up. So he's going to have to play within that system as well. I'm real comfortable with where Baker Mayfield is. I just, Baker Mayfield, to have beaten the Chiefs, didn't get the final play to get the job done. But I think that we would have been as good a chance for us to win a Super Bowl against Brady. I think Brady is going to fall apart. I honestly do. I think he's going to have a bad game against Kansas City. I don't think that manufactured monster there is going to overcome the deficiencies that I saw in that team. Remember, I live down here, and I saw the deficiencies in this team throughout the early season, and they've had some clunker games, and in a big, bad kind of way. And there's more than one game in which Brady threw multiple picks and was not himself.
And what an insult to Baker. I mean, we got not we, but, he was the leader of the ship that got this team that close to playing in the AFC Championship. And if we would have got matched up with the Bills, it might sound crazy, but I think there's a chance the Browns are in the Super Bowl. So, I mean, if he's the guy that took us from the years of the 0-16, the 1-15, yeah, it didn't happen immediately, but we're here now. We're figuring it out. Why is the first thing that we want to do here as fans in Cleveland is to get rid of any even ounce of success we have? I mean, how many quarterbacks have we gone through, and now this one's not good enough? Oh, well, he could have got you to the AFC Championship, and he got you to the playoffs. And not only did he get you to the playoffs, you kicked the crap out of the Steelers.
Well, I mean, people want, the built-in, guaranteed, prototypical 6'3", 6'4", big but agile, athletic, big-armed, accurate quarterback. I mean, what you're asking for just doesn't show up in a goddamn catalog. I mean, quarterbacks like this come up once in a blue moon. And I say to you that Patrick Mahomes, as good as he is, and he's a wizard throwing the ball, he's one solid hit away from God knows what. You do not know what you have at a quarterback. He may be the greatest thing in the world, but he could end up like Gale Sayers. That's what Lamar Jackson could wind up as. The Gale Sayers of quarterbacks, that once his knee gets wrecked, then he's never going to be as good as what he was, and he basically has to get out of the game. There are no guarantees here. You're not going to get a guy who's Adonis and 6'4" and can run, a 4.5 40, and you're not going to get that. So people in Cleveland have to understand there's the few guys who are, Brady at the end of the trail, and you've got Mahomes, but the league, and you got Herbert, fine young quarterback who kind of fits that bigger guy mold. And then on the other end, my God, the quarterbacks that you see around the league that are just awful. It's like I'd rather have a guy in the top 7, 8 quarterbacks in the league than have to be constantly losing every year, sitting, waiting, hoping that one guy who comes up every 10 years comes up on my watch. It's not a good way of planning a football team. So my feeling is we're fine with Baker. We're fine offensively. Defensively, we need a hell of a lot of help. So that's what it is. And we'll see. But I got to get out of here. It's almost 10 after 7. And
I just have one final thought before we go. Now I'm looking at this list of panelists, and I'm noticing when you just changed it, but I was listed at the very last. And I had to ask myself, why am I listed last? I'm not trying to imply that it's because I'm a woman, but I'm just saying I wasn't the last one in the room. So why was I the last one listed? I'm not making any accusations. I'm just saying I got my eye on you, Mr. Moohead. I got my eye on you.
Well, let me ask you something, Stephanie, before we go. If you and Jameel Hill went out together as two female sports reporters, would you end up sharing a box lunch?
I don't know who Jameel Hill is, and I have a feeling you're making a lesbian joke right there. I don't know. I don't want to make any accusations, but I just have a bad feeling that I shouldn't answer that question.
Well, I mean, if that would be too expensive for you, you could eat out at the Y, right?
Oh my.
It would be a double header. Oh wait,
All right, everybody. Thanks, Stephanie. You have strong opinions and you say nothing. It's a brilliant strategy.
It is my job.
Say nothing. I agree with you. Everybody, thanks a lot for tuning into this edition of Moohead Radio. We'll be back again on Monday. It is Friday. We'll be back again on Friday. It's just mind-numbing with this whole thing, the pandemic. One day seems so much like another. But we will be back on Friday, I promise you, with something far less interesting. Thanks a lot for tuning in, and until next time, hasta la vista, Pastor Heads. Good night.